Chapter 37. Adelmo sat in his grandfather's cozy living room, listening intently to the old man's words. The room was filled with the scent of aged books and memories, creating an atmosphere of nostalgia. His grandfather's voice was filled with wisdom and a hint of urgency as he spoke. "I know this is a lot to take in during your visit," his grandfather began, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and concern. "But in case something happens to me, you needed to know what our family is all about, what our true calling is in this world." Adelmo nodded, his mind racing to process the weight of his grandfather's words. It was a lot to absorb, but he understood the importance of this moment. "I know, I can understand that," Adelmo replied, his voice filled with a mix of gratitude and confusion. "It's just hard to process all of this stuff. Everything most people see as fiction is actually real." His grandfather's face softened, a gentle smile playing on his lips. He reached out and placed a weathered hand on Adelmo's shoulder, offering comfort and reassurance. "All I have said is about all I can think of telling you," his grandfather said, his voice tinged with a hint of sadness. "If you have any other questions, just ask." Adelmo took a deep breath, feeling a sense of overwhelming gratitude for his grandfather's willingness to share his knowledge. "All right, I will do that," Adelmo replied, his voice filled with sincerity. "Thanks for all the information," he added, his words carrying the weight of the emotions swirling within him. Adelmo's mind wandered for a moment, seeking a temporary escape from the weighty conversation. He turned to his grandfather, a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. "Are there any other good tourist places here besides Dracula's castle? I already saw that today," he asked, hoping to lighten the mood. His grandfather chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "Yes, there are plenty of places to check out," he replied, his voice filled with a hint of excitement. "I guess the question is, what kind of attractions are you looking to check out? A lot of people love the structures, but some people come to check out any type of attractions having to do with Dracula and vampires." Adelmo exclaimed, "I'm really interested in anything that can give me a taste of the supernatural." His grandfather nodded and replied, "All right, let me make a list for you then." As he jotted down the names, he also mentioned them out loud. "Since you've already been to Bran Castle, also known as Dracula's Castle, I won't include that. However, I do have a brochure for an amazing place you should visit. It's called Dracula's Tour." With a swift motion, his grandfather discarded the paper he had been writing on and handed Adelmo the brochure. "This will be much more helpful than a simple list," he said with a smile. Adelmo eagerly accepted the brochure and said, "Thank you. I'll definitely check this out and see what exciting adventures await me." Adelmo's gratitude was evident as he thanked his grandfather for the brochure and expressed his intention to explore the possibilities it offered. With the brochure in his hands, Adelmo couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. He knew that this new resource would open doors to a world of supernatural wonders. Excitedly, he promised his grandfather that he would thoroughly examine the brochure and make the most of the information given to him. As he glanced around, he realized that there were multiple options for tours available. The thought crossed his mind, which tour would be the most beneficial for me? And do I really have to participate in all of them? He pondered over the fact that his stay was limited, and he wouldn't have enough time to engage in lengthy tours. The idea of returning home at the earliest convenience lingered in his mind. Seeking advice, he turned to his grandfather and inquired, "Do I have to partake in all the tours, or can I simply select the ones that interest me?" His grandfather responded, mentioning that while it is preferred for visitors to join the tours, it is not mandatory. He suggested picking out a few attractions to explore. His grandfather shared his own experience, emphasizing how engaging and informative the tours had been. Understanding the constraints of time, his grandfather acknowledged the importance of Adelmo's responsibilities back home. He mentioned the likelihood of Adelmo needing to return promptly due to his shop and other commitments. Surprised by his grandfather's insight, Adelmo questioned, "How did you know?" The conversation left Adelmo with a sense of reassurance and a clearer perspective on how to make the most of his time exploring the different tour options. His grandfather looked at him with a knowing smile and said, "You know, There's something special about our family. We have this uncanny ability to sense when something important is happening in a particular part of the world. It's like a sixth sense that tells us we need to be there for some reason." His words hung in the air, leaving Adelmo intrigued and curious. With a mischievous smirk, his grandfather continued, "I actually had a feeling recently, telling me that I needed to go to your area, but since you were already there, I thought I'd let you handle it on your own. However, I knew you needed to be aware of everything before diving too deep into it. That's why I invited you here, to explain what's really going on." Adelmo couldn't help but feel a mix of confusion and frustration. "Why didn't you tell me about all of this before I got involved?" he asked his grandfather. The old man's response was calm and understanding. "I didn't want to force anything upon you. I knew that if I revealed too much, it would only pique your curiosity even more. And once that happened, you wouldn't have had a choice but to find out the truth about what's happening in this world." Adelmo fell silent, his mind racing with thoughts and questions. He couldn't believe the magnitude of what he was about to uncover,